Every creative has had a bitter bite at this ailment, this pandemic in the creative space. Unless you want to tell me that you were not the least excited about the new release of a gear or an improvement over something that you already have in terms of gear, in terms of equipment, anything that you've used or you are still using right now, definitely there's gonna be an upgrade or a new release that you're going to fancy and you would want to buy, probably even in most cases where what you're using isn't out of date or is working perfectly well. And that's what we're going to discuss today in this video. So let's just put it in simple terms. There's an acronym for this condition, and I say condition because yes, it's related to sickness. It's something that every creative kind of suffers in one way or the other. It may not be a problem, maybe you have what it takes to be able to afford having this sickness, but it leads to a lot of consequences, and we are going to talk about how it happens, the causes and the effects, and as well as how we can get rid of this ailment and stay free and be progressive in everything that we do as long as our productivity is concerned. So in simple terms, what we're going to talk about has the acronym GAS. Everyone has gas, and I'm not talking about a gas that makes your belly bloat. I'm talking about gear acquisition syndrome. Yes, gear acquisition syndrome. Every creative has it. I'm using a camera today. I'm still using my Canon EOS 6D. Every time I pick up my Canon EOS 6D, because I've gotten the chance to use upgrades, let's say the 6D Mark II, the 5D Mark IV, 5DSR, these cameras I've had a chance to have a taste of how they perform. And at every instance of these new cameras that I got my hands onto, I wanted to get it for myself. In fact, I least thought about my EOS 6D as something I would use after I had used any of those cameras that I mentioned that I used in the past. But come to think of it, I've been doing photography for quite some time, and I have mastered, at least to an extent, the Canon EOS 6D, which makes it very easy to operate wherever I may be. I know where the buttons are. In any circumstances, I can just easily operate it and get the images as I would prefer them to be. So come to think of it, why would I need to upgrade when my camera is working perfectly well and it can do what I want it to do? I can still perform as a photographer to the best of my abilities when I'm using the Canon EOS 6D. But not to say that there's something wrong with wanting to purchase the new gear, the new upgrade. Probably you have a reason, you have what it takes, you have the money to be able to afford the new gear that's released. But if you don't necessarily need that particular feature in your daily activities, it would rather be best to invest into something else rather than purchasing a gear that you don't necessarily really need. I looked it up on the internet to find the most simple layman perspective of an explanation to what gas is, and I got introduced to this definition that gas is simply a condition that any person has that makes them consecutively have the urges to purchase new gear anytime they are released when what they already have performs perfectly well. And this is actually a problem. We're going to look into that. But first of all, let's look at the causes. The first cause that I'm going to talk about is overconsumption. It is good to research. I'm not saying that it's wrong to always research. Researching into what gear that you need next is good, so you can inform your purchasing decisions, all right, to make the best decisions so that you don't waste money. But here, on the flip side, if you find yourself consuming too much content, you're always going to come across a video that's going to give you a reason to overthink and think that you need to purchase another camera body. Because for instance, YouTube influencers, the popular YouTubers who do gear reviews and make videos around camera gear and all the gear that they think or they make you feel like you really need, these creators are actually paid by the camera manufacturers, the gear manufacturers, to talk about why you need to buy it. They actually talk about the advantages of this new gear that will make you want to go and buy it, and that's actually what they are paid to do. And of course, if I was given a gear and I loved it as much, I would definitely recommend it to you. So if you find yourself always consuming content too much, especially content about gear, reviews and all that, you are definitely going to find yourself wanting a new release every now and then, and it's not going to really do you good because you're going to spend money on gear that probably in the future you're not going to really have need for. So overconsumption of content, though Consuming content is good because you can research, but make sure that you don't overconsume. That is the catch. That's actually the difference. Don't overconsume. The next cause of gear acquisition syndrome is that there are endless supply of equipment. Everywhere over the internet, there are endless supply of equipment. There's a new camera, there's a new lighting equipment, there are new flashes, there are new tripods, there are new lenses, a whole lot, and they are always advertising to you. If you're someone who normally shops online, you're definitely going to find adverts that are brought to you that has either a little bit or much resemblance to what your search history is about. So if you search for lenses, or you came across, let's say, a camera that you click just to check out, maybe not necessarily to buy it, to these companies, they are always going to be bombarding you with adverts on all websites that you open. So there's something that you're always going to come across. So you have to be very careful about these websites, clicking on cameras and all of that, unless of course you have a reason to click on one particular camera. In fact, we all have reasons to, but if you don't take care, you're going to be moved and lured into purchasing something that probably in the future, yet again, you're not going to have need for. So endless supply of equipment is a cause of gear acquisition syndrome, but it's not your fault. I wouldn't say it's anyone's fault, but if you allow yourself to be carried along the flow, you are going to find yourself contracting gear acquisition syndrome. So majorly, these are the two causes of gear acquisition syndrome, but it can be swerved, or you can avoid these when you make the right decisions for yourself by trying to avoid these 2 points that I've listed. So moving on to the effect, you are going to find yourself purchasing and you're going to be wasting money. Trust me, there are a ton of equipment that I've bought from the past when I started doing photography, later moving into doing filmmaking full time. I've purchased a lot of equipment along the way. That most of them are actually sitting on the shelf, not doing necessarily nothing. Every creative has actually undergone this kind of ailment, and you can be the next, or probably also going through that. So if you find yourself purchasing things just because you've seen how it's used and you fancy it, that is not enough. Try your best to think through the projects that you'll be doing over the next few years. Are you really going to have need for that? If fine, you are going to need all of those gear, cool, you can buy them. But most often than not, we find ourselves as creatives always purchasing the new release or something that we've seen someone using, and we just need it because we feel like we need it because they use it. And coming down to wasting money, in truth, every creative wants to make money out of what they do, right? I'm a photographer, I'm a filmmaker. I always wish that clients call on me to come do projects for them so I make money. I create content on YouTube. I want YouTube to get my channel monetized so that I can have money, or I can earn something off of the videos that I put out there for you guys to watch. So if you purchase gear and you don't get the money in return, you don't get revenue in return for what it's supposed to be used for, and it only sits on the shelf like I've fallen victim for, you're just wasting money. So you have to put your money where it's supposed to be, make good purchasing decisions, consume content by watching videos and finding a reason to upgrade, but make sure that you don't overconsume like I spoke about earlier. So make wise decisions anytime you're pulling your wallet to pay for a gear. If you don't need it, or if you're not going to need it across the years to come, think twice about it before you waste that money. So I was speaking about what gear acquisition syndrome is, the causes, the effects. Now let's look at how we can rid ourselves of gear acquisition syndrome. And it's simple and it's basic. If you are getting used to your gear and you have a particular pattern, you have a particular genre in whatever direction that you move in your creative space, if you're a photographer, if you're a filmmaker, and you find yourself always shooting with flashes or always shooting with continuous lights, in the case of a filmmaker, try your hands using your gear, what you already have. Shoot with natural light. Try different scenarios, try different features, try different subjects. That's where you get to learn much more about your camera and your abilities, and you're going to even find out that there's more to actually learn, because anytime you pick up your camera, you're definitely going to learn something new. If it has something to do with lighting, if it has something to do with directing your subject and all that, There's a plethora of things to explore, and you're going to realize that the gear that you're using is as good as what probably you thought you are going to be able to perform if you had the new gear that you are so much longing to purchase. If you made it this far, thank you very much. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and turn on the post notification button, especially if you're new, so that you'll always be notified anytime I upload a new video over here on my YouTube channel. And on to the next video, have a wonderful day. See ya.